Today I'm going to be reviewing the Hinterlands expansion for Dominion board game. How these reviews work is we're going to look at some of the things that the expansion either introduces or places an emphasis on, a couple things that make or break an expansion, and then look at some of the strongest, weakest, most fun, least fun things in it, along with a little bit of fluff at the end. And for each of these things, I'm going to give them an American letter grade, A through F, and at the end we can put them into a grade point average to compare to other expansions if that's the thing you'd like to do. Hinterlands, for some context, was the sixth expansion to Dominion. It was in the first wave of expansions released in October 2011. It got a second edition in 2022 along with Seaside and Prosperity. Don't go looking for the first edition. I don't know these people like they're going, I love Dominion, but what if I could spend money on making my experience worse? Yeah, don't do that. Just do the second edition. It's better. It has 26 kingdom cards in it, not much else. It introduces when gain, this concept and mechanic, and returning emphasis, although we'd seen them in previous expansions, even in the base set, Cellar and Moat, of filtering cards, and brings back a lot of reactions to place an emphasis there also. Alright, looking at some of these mechanics, here's when gain. When you gain, do something. A lot of these are going to be, some of these are going to be things that are like when you gain, some other kind of gain happens, whether it's a cheaper card, like this remodel effect. Haggler doesn't say when you gain this, but when you gain, if you have a Haggler out and you gain something else, you're gonna gain something with it. Cauldron, maybe your opponent's gonna gain a curse with when you gain stuff. Really, all of these, have this one gain effect. One gain is pretty sweet. A lot of time in Dominion, you have to wait a while. You have to gain a card. You have to put it into your discard pile. You have to get back around. You have to shuffle it. You have to draw it again. You have to play it. So there's a lot of steps to get an effect. One gain bypasses all of this, right? Like Souk, I want to trash 2 cards. I can just buy Souk, trash 2 cards. I also get this sweet card in my deck, which is a Souk. Berserker, attack. When you gain this, if you have an action play, you get to play it right away. You get to make your opponent discard immediately. I mean, that's pretty cool, right? So all of these effects where you get to start having them immediately, and that's really a fun thing to have. And on bonus, you get a card with it. So, this is a sweet mechanic, and I'm going to give it an A. Filtering. What I'm calling filtering is basically, dealing with bad cards, whether they're victory cards, coppers that you don't like, whatever, by, bypassing them. That is like discarding them rather than, dealing with them. Some of these aren't explicitly discards, like Crossroads, it draws per victory card, but in the same way, it's like, these victory cards are no longer being a problem for me. A lot of these are going to be plus cards, discard. Some of them go off the top of your deck. Stables, deals with copper. Margrave's even an attack that filters your opponent's deck for them. You still don't want to get hit with the Margrave. You don't want to be discarding down to 3 cards in hand, but you do get that little bit of filter, because you draw a card first. So there's really this, sub-theme on filtering throughout it. It's not the most exciting mechanic, at all, but a lot of these are pretty cool cards. Stables is a pretty cool non-terminal draw card. You just have to be pairing it with your treasures, which is hot. Plus 4 cards, discard 2 cards. It's an attack. It's pretty cool. Crossroads is a cool card. All of these are pretty interesting. I'm going to give kind of a knock on Cartographer and Oasis on that respect, but, all of them kind of do stuff that are more so than just like your standard draw discard. So for this, although, it's not the most exciting mechanic ever, I'm still okay with giving it a B+. Alright, reactions, blue cards. They react to stuff. There's, I guess, 2 of these things, three of these things actually that I have on top here that are primarily, or maybe not primarily, but they have this, when you discard this other than in cleanup, reaction. So, you think back to our filtering, like these are letting you discard cards, not during cleanup, and so these kind of go with those. The other ones are reacting to various other things. Other player gains a province, player plays an attack. When you gain a card, here's a kind of a when gain there. I'm not that impressed with the reactions. I mean, part of it is like, we talk about these three having all sorts of triggers, and then we go down and we look at these three and we're going, are you ever really reacting this thing? Maybe not. So, although like these three are actually pretty fun to deal with, like maybe I like gaining a lot of gold, Trail we'll talk about later. Weaver, maybe I like discarding this and being able to play it, like, it doesn't even take up space in my deck. Like these are pretty cool. These ones a lot less cool on the reaction front, like Fool's Gold. You're never reacting this. Trader, do you actually want silver instead of whatever you're gaining? Probably not. So it's kind of a mixed bag. Just because the top ones are so compelling, the bottom ones are kind of a flop. We'll go kind of in between, say L to B. Alright, components. Look at attacks, draw, payload, attacks. Hinterlands has 4 attacks. These are all fun attacks. Margrave might be considered, both of these might be considered the least fun, but, I like both of them. Gonna be real. We have 2 discard attacks. One is this kind of more oppressive discard attack where, you're gaining a card with it. That's different. When you gain it, you can play it immediately. That's different. So this is kind of this like instant attack. It's pretty cool. There's Margrave, which although, we talk about with the filtering, ultimately for you when you play it is +3 cards, +1 buy, which is a pretty strong and fun card to have around. Cauldron, 2 cursors that are definitely more conditional. Cauldron, you have to gain a bunch of action cards to do. It gives you a +buy to help along with that. Witch's Hut, you can go +4 cards and you filter with it, but you have to filter out action cards that you maybe want to give other players a curse. And so, all of these really, are compelling things to have in an expansion. It's one of the early expansions, so there'll be nothing that's that radical, but they all give like nice steps to go through in order to get to where you're going. So I'm giving the attacks from Hinterlands a solid A. Alright, draw pieces. Hinterlands is definitely a little bit hurting here. We talk about quantity over quality here. There's 8 of them out of 26. That's a little bit under a third. That is not great. So in games with heavy Hinterlands, it may be very tough to draw. Especially, you start looking at these villages. These are tough villages to use. Crossroads only works once. Inn's really expensive. Border Village is expensive. Inn's also draw negative. Trail, you have to have a combo. There's this nice non-terminal draw card in Stables, but then you're looking back and you're looking at like these 2 attacks and whatnot. So, the draw's not really there. That said, a lot of these are pretty fun draw cards to deal with. We talked about Margrave and Witch's Hut being kind of interesting attacks. Guard Dog, you want to reduce your hand size before you play it so it draws more. Really all 3 of these villages do fun things. Border Village, you can get a draw card with it. Trail's a fantastic reaction. Again, we'll talk more about it later. So, the quantity is really, really lacking here, though. So it's really tough, although these are, fun, interesting cards to draw with. You may have a tough time doing it just because they don't exist in the kingdom. So, you kind of have to limit it, and I'm only giving it a B+ here. Alright, payload. What are the cool things that your deck can do with Hinterlands? You can gain more cards. Haggler will gain you more cards. Wheelwright will gain you more cards. Develop will gain you more cards. These are all cool things to be doing. We talked about Cauldron. Fool's Gold's kind of a weak money increaser. Sook's a much stronger money increaser. Also comes with a buy, so these are giving you some extra coins. Cauldron can also curse. There's a cost reducer here in Hideaway. Cost reducers are always cool because they're pretty explosive. Sook's also pretty explosive. The one criticism I give is like, although there's this nice diversity of things that you can do with it, some of them are, less so. Like, it's going to be really tough to score with a lot of these. Like, it's tough to score more with Haggard. It's tough to score more with Wheelwright. It's tough to score more with Develop. And so, although you have these explosives down here, and you have these ways to increase coins, you're kind of lacking in ways to really score more if only one of these is up here. And so, although, it's can lead to some pretty fun games, it might not actually, mean anything. And so I'm only going to give this an A minus. Alright, let's look at some extremes. High-end strength. Margrave, fun attack, gives you cards and it gives you buy. Border Village, fun village, you can get draw cards with it. Souk, fun payload card, you can trash down with it and produce lots of money. I mean, this is a fantastic thing. The one thing that you can probably criticize a little bit is that these all end up being kind of on the expensive side, and so especially with Margrave and Border Village, things can get kind of out of hand. If somebody's getting a Margrave early, it can be really tough to buy a Margrave. If you're looking at 3-card hands, Border Village, if it's the only village, you have to be getting up to 6 to do it. Even Souk, it can kind of be kind of variable, just because like maybe you'll hit 5 with 2 estates in hand, and maybe you won't. Like that's kind of a tough thing. So, although they're really fun to deal with, there's kind of this additional, I don't know, call it luck component that's maybe not the most appealing, and so I'm going to drop this down to an A minus. Low end strength. Cartographer Trader. These are both things that you'll get sometimes. They're not exciting. You wouldn't expect them to be exciting since they're at the bottom of the expansion. They're maybe more like 30, 40, 50% type cards than, 70. But they're also not like terrible. Like a lot of the expansions, look at the low end strength and it's like, I'm never going to be buying this thing. These are both things that you will buy sometimes. They won't be the most exciting, but oh well. So we're going to give it a B minus just because you do buy these and they do good things for you. Alright, most exciting, it's Trail. This might be the most exciting card in all of Dominion. It looks simple, +1 card, +1 action, but this reaction, when you gain trash or discard this, other than clean up, you may play it. So as you're gaining trails, you get to play it. Maybe it'll be a village for you, maybe it'll be draw for you. You can trash it for benefit, like with an upgrade or, a develop, and it's going to go out there and play, make that trasher, non-terminal, maybe a village, and you're going to get stuff out of it, and you're not going to have to put it in the trash, and you're going to keep it forever. Discard it. Maybe I'm playing a cartographer and I'm discarding 2 trails, and suddenly that cartographer is like this awesome village draw card. And so, this is a really, really fun card to play with. And it's definitely getting an A from me. Most unpleasant, I'm calling Berserker. It's mostly this immediacy. When you gain this, if you have an action input, you can play it immediately. And so, what can happen is that one player can end up feeling kind of shut out, just because, somebody plays an action and they hit 5 and they buy Berserker and that hits the opponent's first 5 and they can't buy Berserker back, and then, they don't feel good about that. They're never going to hit 5 again because Berserker's going to keep hitting them. This is kind of a rare occurrence. It feels bad when it happens and you really do remember it, but it's not something that, really is the defining thing about this card. You can feel like the games are unpleasant, but it's nice to have a different change of pace every now and then. So, I like the attack. I'm giving it an A. Fluff. Okay. The theme in Hinterlands is miserable. It's like, it's not there. There's kind of this notion of far off things, exotic things, but it's really not there. We're giving that one a C. Artwork. Hinterlands artwork is just amazing all throughout. Like you look at the background, you look at Trail. These are all the same artist, by the way, but, you look at really any of the artwork in Hinterlands. Like, I think having the far off theme, there's like a lot of greens, a lot of whatever. It's an A, and the vibe is there for Trail alone. That's an A. You can't get past Trail. Put it all together, you have a 3.47 weighted average. That's a very strong expansion. I think I have it as the 3rd best expansion, and certainly the best of these early set. You gotta buy it for Trail alone. Like, this is the most fun thing that you can do. Should you buy Hinterlands? Yeah, you need it for Trail. What else can you say?